University Admission Workshop. I wanted to start with a very brief introduction, then we're going to go through the sequence of presentations by the youth who've gone through the admission process over the years here. The first thing I wanted to show you is a video that by one of the vice chancellor or something of admissions in UNC that explains the criteria, that the criteria for admissions in American universities is not number-based. So your SAT, your ACT scores are important, but they are not the only criterion that they take when they make decisions on admission. And it might not actually, in some instances, even be the decisive factor in making their decisions. There are many other factors that play in their making the decision, and I wanted to show you what this guy is saying, so you hear it from the mouth of the lion himself, right? Okay. Not sure why it's not showing. Oh, it is showing.
We're not looking for a particular number or a particular set of numbers. Students and families tend to focus on numbers, understandably. They're numbers. You can look at them. They offer the illusion of precision. There's no number that measures a student. There's no set of numbers that can tell us the whole story of a young person, what she's done, what he's capable of doing, how far they've traveled. We have to rely on more than just one or two numbers. And when people talk about admission to a place like this, understandably, a lot of the attention gets focused on what's your GPA, where do you rank in your class, what's your test score. And all those things are things we pay attention to in combination with other things to help us figure out what a person's done and what a person might do or is likely to do when a person comes here. But none of those numbers tells the whole story. So we look at everything else. Academically, it helps to be curious. It helps to be interested in school. I tell students a lot, it's important to try to figure out a way to take some joy in what you're doing in the moment. Good-heartedness, curiosity, willingness to track down the answer even when it's hard to find. Beyond that, we're a public institution, and I think it's safe to say we're looking for people from all walks of life. We don't think there is a Carolina student. We think there are thousands of Carolina students, and we're willing to be surprised, and we're willing to be actually overjoyed, thrilled by the things that young people tell us about themselves that we weren't expecting to find. I want more information about students, not less. And so when we read applications, we're trying to pay attention to students who understand, first of all, that they don't have all the answers, that there's more to those around them than a person might see at first. A willingness to make common cause, a willingness to work together, a willingness to take other people for who they are. All those things matter to us, and those are qualities that I actually think any community would probably seek out in others who were looking to join.
Okay. Is this making it difficult to see? Shall we transition to the other side? Are you okay with here? You're okay? Okay. So there are basically two messages in this video that you just saw. The first is that it's not all numbers, that they are looking for something more than just numbers, and that the process of admissions is a very complicated thing that nobody can really capture and describe in a very brief way. So you have to prepare yourself basically for that possibility. So this is the sequence of presentations that are going to happen today. First, Georgia is going to talk to the 12th graders in particular about the application process and how you prepare yourself for the 2019 round that's about to start shortly, or if it hasn't started yet. She's also going to, in her second presentation, talk about financial aid, what kind of options and qualifications and the process itself. George is going to tell you how it works or doesn't work for different people. The transfer, so you start in community college and then you transfer to university, how that works and the option there. Then Banoob, hopefully he'll show up. He's going to talk to you about living away from home if you end up getting admitted into a college that's not in Raleigh and you have to live away from home. what the challenges are, and as well as the opportunities. Christina, hopefully she'll show up, will talk about how to prepare now. So everything so far is really geared more towards people in going to 12th grade and decision making during the year. But you can't really start preparing yourself for going to college in your 12th grade. You have to be ready by the time you actually reach 11th grade. And so there is a lot of stuff that you need to be doing in 9th and 10th grade. That's what Christina is going to talk about. And then we're going to split. The kids are going to stay here and I'll go over what a good essay looks like. And like we did last year, there's going to be an essay clinic that's going to start maybe early October or something. To help you out with constructing your thoughts for writing a good essay. And then at the same time, Ines is going to take the parents to the other church, one of the classrooms, to especially for those like me who grew up in Egypt and went to college in Egypt. The two systems are very different. So just getting over the notation things and what differences there are between the Egyptian system and the American system. And throughout, raise your hand, ask questions, and at the end, if you're interested, I didn't make copies of the slides, but I have all the slides, so if you're interested, just send me an email, I'll send you, or I'll have somehow get it posted on the church website. Okay, so in the interest of time, let's get started. Haddan, do us any questions first? We're good? Okay, Georgia. Let's hope I managed to do this. How do you exit this thing? Done. Oops. Okay. You are 2. All right. Okay. It should have been black and white.
Difference. Hi, guys. How are you? Okay. I feel like you guys probably memorized this talk that I give every year. So, if some numbers are not updated, I apologize. I was supposed to change them, but I forgot. So, okay. So, high school seniors, application information. Oh, what did I do? Okay. So, hopefully by now, this first slide does not apply to any high school seniors because you've already decided what colleges you want to apply to, what your degree program is that you want to do, and what you plan on studying. If that's not the case, I would consider definitely going to some resources online and just basically looking up like what is it that you want in a school, what your track is, what is it that you want in a school. You want a big school, a small school, something that has a lot of activities, something that has good job placement, different things like that. Go to open houses if you haven't already, which really you should be doing in your junior year so you know what you need to do as far as like what college you want to apply to, like what GPA you need, what's your SAT score, different things like that. And then also, we are really blessed to have a ton of schools in North Carolina, both public and private, big and small. And I know everyone wants to go to the big 3, Duke, UNC, State, go Pack. But consider smaller schools because smaller schools do have more scholarship money to give you because they have less students coming in. So that's always something that students don't consider. I think a lot of people just want that, like, I went to UNC, I'm a Tar Heel. Where there's like perfectly good schools like UNC Charlotte, UNC Greensboro, UNC Wilmington. They're smaller and they have more scholarship money to give you. So that's always something to keep in mind. Okay, so this is a little old. But just to show you, these are like some of the statistics, and I'm pretty confident in saying that I don't think they vary like super high. I know the SAT has a different like scoring now, or they went back to it. I don't know, they change it like every year. But basically you can see GPA-wise, majority of students that are admitted into the big 3 are in the top 10 to 20% of their class, and most of them do score, as you can see, the ACT score. Is it still on like a 40-point scale? 36? Okay, so this is all right. Okay, so you can see, I mean, it's basically like a pretty high statistics. Now, raise your hand if you've already taken the SAT. How many of you guys are seniors? Okay. How many of you are juniors? Okay. Who's planning on taking the SAT this year or next year? Okay. All right. If you've already taken the SAT, and these are one of the 3 schools that you want to go to, and you didn't make that SAT score, don't be discouraged. I didn't make NC State's SAT like average, and I still got in. So that goes to show you your SAT score is like not end all be all. If you haven't already taken the SAT and these are one of the schools you want to go to, start studying now to make sure you can get into those performance levels. So, like I said, if you don't meet all the requirements, still apply. If you're like, I really want to go to NC State's the best engineering school, this is where I want to go, and you don't think your GPA qualifies or your SAT score qualifies, still apply. Like, you can meet 2 of the 3, and you might be surprised, like, you can still get in. Like, I don't think my SAT score was high enough for any of the colleges, but I got into most of them. So, that goes to show you, I mean, other stuff on your application will make a difference. And feel free to stop me as I talk fast. Okay, so this is basically for the seniors and for the juniors, so you know going into this next summer what you need to do. So, applications are usually November to February. There's a caveat with that being said. Most early admissions start in late August, September now. I think the Common App still opens September 1st, if I'm not mistaken. Common App still opens September 1st? August 1st? August 1st, okay. So, we're gonna talk about early admissions in a little bit. So basically your applications are gonna be rolling throughout halfway through the year towards into the 2020 year. Between December, January, and February, and March, you'll get your admissions decisions by the university, and then most everybody requires you to make your choice on May 1st and put your deposit down to secure your seat. So that's really just how, like, a really broad overview of how it goes. Okay, so early decision versus regular decisions. Early decisions are usually due, now even earlier, when I was in school it was due by like November, excuse me. Now it's like October, yeah, it's like October. So basically what that means is that, so early decisions, the difference. The earlier you get in, the earlier they'll look at your application. So if you're one of the early applicants, your application will be looked at before all of the regular decisions. Now, there's pros and cons to that. The pro is your application is looked at first. So let's say you don't think you qualify for the school because your score is not that high or your GPA is just not where you want it to be. Well, if you think about it, they haven't seen all the other 30,000 applications from the regular admissions people, so they have more seats to give you. So that's why I always encourage early admissions if that's a school that you really, really want to go to, because you want to be one of the first people, because it's a rolling admission, it's a rolling basis, which means basically like when your application gets sent in, that's when they start looking at it. So you don't want to be one of the like last people out of 30,000 people and they only have 2 more seats to give out. You want to be one of the like first because they have plenty of seats and in my mind, I don't have any like statistics to back this up, but I do think it gets harder like if you're one of the last applicants. Also, you do get more consideration for merit-based scholarships and opportunities like the Honors College. So for example, like I said, this goes back if you're one of like the first admits, then they have a bucket of scholarship money. You're one of the first people to get that. One versus when you do it a little bit later on, that bucket is running low, so they may not have as much scholarship money to give you. One thing to be aware of early admissions is some of them are binding. I don't know if Duke is still binding, but I know Duke was binding when I was applying, meaning you need to withdraw your applications from all the other schools, and then I know some schools, which is, I don't think any in North Carolina, but like some, you have to pay a penalty, or you don't get like your deposit back if you withdraw your seat. Regular applications are usually due later in the year, and that's when the majority of people do it, so obviously there is going to be higher competition, so that's one of the cons to it. So that's why I'm a big advocate of early applications. Are you guys good? Any questions? Yes. You get more time to work on your application. If you're like a procrastinator, you get more time to do it. I would say that's one of the only pros that I can think of. Yeah. Anything else? Yes. They usually open in like August now. Like I know there's Common App, which is where you can like submit all of like there's a it's like a universal application that you can just send it out to like all the different schools, and I think that opens like August now, or September. Fedi? It already opened. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm sure there's always a way to get out of it, but most of the time, if it's a binding decision, that means if you're accepted, you need to revoke. Not you have to go, but I mean, you'll probably like lose your deposit that you pay. And like, I don't know how much the deposit is, it depends on each school, but I know States was like $250 back in like 2013. I don't know if it's still $250, but yeah. Yeah.
For some of the schools that they don't have a binding decision, and you said you want to go, then you pay your deposit. If you want to cancel and go somewhere else, you lose your deposit. But if it's a binding decision, that means you have to go. You gotta accept it.
Yeah. So, I mean, if there's a school that you want to go to and they have a binding decision, look into it before you apply. Just make sure you have your information, is what I would say. Okay. All right. To keep on moving. Oh, okay. So the question was, which of the schools here are binding? When I was applying, it was Duke. I don't know if they've changed it, but usually Duke, and they're also private. Wake Forest, yeah, Duke, usually, most of the time it's the private schools. Campbell wasn't binding, I don't think. Duke and Wake Forest were. And they'll usually say, and it'll be two separate applications, so when you make like a profile, you'll see very clearly, it'll say like, apply early decision or apply regular decision. If you apply early, like, these are the stipulations. So, anybody else?
It didn't necessarily say. Okay. It didn't necessarily say that for State or Charlotte.
They're not binding.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, it will very clearly say this is a binding early decision. So
Like, wouldn't it give you like an alert or like a
it'll be
message?
very clear on your application. If you read over that, that's on you. But it will be very clear. You will know that it's early binding, and they'll tell you that on their application. So, okay. So some resources. College Foundation of North Carolina, cfnc.org. That's a really good program if you want to apply within North Carolina. CommonApp.org is like a general application for all of the U.S. schools. So like a lot of, just like the really, really big schools, it's one general application where it's like, what's your name? Where were you born? Where did you live? Like all the questions, so you don't have to fill it out 20,000 times. It's all one application, and then you can pick what schools you want to send it to, and then they may have like a supplemental application, which is like their essay that they want you to write. Like I think UNC wanted me to write, and I still have it surprisingly, but it was if you wrote a message in a bottle and you shipped it out into the ocean and somebody found it, like what did you want the message to be? Like it was something crazy like that. And then like State was like, if you could build anything in the world, like what would it be? Of course. So Common App, yeah, so Common App is good because it's all US schools, not limited to any state. You can pick how many schools there are. And then also go see your guidance counselors, because a lot of times there's weeks in the year where they'll waive application fees. Like for example, there's like College Week. I want to say it's in October. It's in October where most of the schools in North Carolina will waive their application fees, which when it's like $80 per school and you're trying to apply to like 10 schools, it gets very expensive very fast. And then also you can have like need-based waivers. So like based on like your parents' financial income or different things like that, like you may qualify for something additional, but that's something that your guidance counselor would have. So like ask them about it. And most of the time they'll be able to give you the information that you need. Questions? All right, things to keep in mind.
No, that's okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's, oh, okay. So it's always a
Sorry,
good
I
idea.
talk fast.
So is it always a good idea to go to your student council to make sure that like they can look at your finance and stuff and give you like the best options with that? Like,
Yeah, I mean, my guidance counselors when I was in high school were like really helpful, and they knew like a lot of things that I didn't know. So they'll know like, for example, there's like a waiver if you do like free and reduced lunch, or whenever the schools are doing like the application waivers, like for that entire week, like they know that stuff because they communicate with the colleges. So they probably like have a lot of valuable information.
So they
like,
know how to manage the
yeah.
money.
So just go and talk to them. All right. Things to keep in mind. So when you're filling out your college applications, make sure to remember or have a good relationship with people that will give you a recommendation letter. That could be a Sunday school servant, it could be a Buna, it could be one of your coaches, teachers, whoever. Sometimes you'll have like, yeah, Uncle Yasri is a good recommendation letter writer. Shameless plug. Yes, Fedi.
On the application, it said recommendations are optional. Does that mean I should?
Yes. Whenever something is optional, it's always better to do it because it shows that you're putting forth the effort. A lot of times, for example, even the essays are optional. Like NC State, ours were mandatory, but they mine, I don't know, mine were mandatory, but they're optional now. But if you just put in the regular thing, what are you giving them to look at? All you're giving them to look at is your transcript and your SAT score. And if you're not 100% confident that you can get in just based on that, like they don't have anything else to, if they're on the fence about you, they don't have anything else to help them make their decision. Like, why should we let this person in? So when you have optional things, it just shows that you're going above and beyond because you really do want to go to that school, and you're giving them more to look at you as a whole, like a holistic approach. So they're not just looking at like the numbers that you've produced or like how you've done well in school. They're looking at what people say you are, you know, as a person. And it can make a significant difference. So if they're optional, I still recommend you do them. Please give your people that you ask recommendation for advance notice. Don't tell them like a week ahead and think that they're gonna write it in like a day. Like, don't do that. Give them at least a month notice, follow up with them. And make sure it's people that will actually say good things about you. So if it's your English professor that you like slept in class all day in, like he's probably not the person you wanna get a letter from because he's not gonna say the nicest things about you. So make sure it's somebody that you have a good relationship with that can vouch for your personal character. And like I said, talk to your counselors. And then one last thing was, when choosing your major, make sure not to put all of your choices in the same college. So what do I mean by that? So it's kind of like a hierarchy. So NC State is a huge university. Within NC State, there's multiple colleges. There's the College of Engineering, there's the College of Humanities, and the College of Business. Within each college, there's multiple degree programs. So I was in the College of Business, but within that, there was 5 majors you could do. You could get a major in business management, you could do economics, you could do entrepreneurship, or you could do accounting. If you don't know what you want to do, it's good to apply to different colleges because different colleges may have different requirements. For example, NC State's engineering program, as we all know, is a very well-renowned program. So their requirements for getting in are probably really, really high. I don't know because I'm not an engineer, but I've been told they're really difficult to get into. Their business management school, while they have an exceptional business management school, their GPA requirement or their SAT requirement may be a little bit lower. So it always goes to show you, like, make sure to do your research on different colleges because you can always get in somewhere. And if you decide that's not the major you want to do or you plan to go to engineering, but you just don't think your GPA was, like, good enough to get in, you can always transfer your majors. You can always change your majors. Once you're in the university, it's easy to change your major. Now, don't be one of those people that take like 8 years to finish college, but you can change your major as much as you want. Does that make sense? With doing, I mean, most of the time, so the first 2 years of college are gonna be your general education classes. So you take the same classes, you take like English, history, whatever. I personally don't see a risk to it, unless I know maybe like, one of the risks may be like, you may have to take like a very, very foundational class if you want to be an engineer and you're like a biology major. I mean, you're gonna be stuck taking that biology class, but that's the only that I would personally say, yes.
So as far as career paths and like knowing what you want, just not knowing what path you want to take, like talking to your counselor is a good idea, but I heard that sometimes on the college websites they offer like this thing, I don't know what it's called, but it kind of guides you into what path you should take in order to be what you want. Is that true?
There's like personality tests that I took when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. They do like different things like that where like, oh, you're like a creative person, maybe you should be like a journalist. You know, there's like different things like that. if you don't know what you want to major in, it's really not a big deal if you're applying to college. Like, you will figure it out, hopefully. But there's also, for example, you can apply to what's called first-year college. And what that program is basically like an undecided major. And so essentially your first 2 years of college, you're going to take your major requirements, which are going to be like your English, your history, your math classes. Like, it's what everybody takes. So you have the first 2 years of college to kind of like gauge and figure out what is that your major that you want to go into. No. No. The question was, does it look bad if you don't have a decided major? I don't know if any of the other college grads can speak. I had a decided major, but I know people that were in the undecided program and they didn't have an issue transferring into their major once they decided it. And I mean, as far as I know, they've graduated and doing well in life, so. The question was, is there a limit to when you can change your major? Like, how far into? I know people that have been in college for like 10 years, so I don't think there's a limit. It's just how many credits you need to complete your degree. If you completely change, like you go from biology to journalism, like all of your science credits that you've done, let's say you need like 100 of them to graduate, and 75 credits through, you're like, I really don't want to do this. You're going to start from zero, and let's say you need 80 credits in the humanities to graduate. All your biology credits aren't going to transfer, and they're not going to count. So then you're just kind of be starting over. No, there's no limit. It's just going to take you a long time to graduate.
You're doing 1 year of just not
First year
knowing what
college.
you want, but then halfway through that year, you decide what you want to be. So can you transfer to the major you want halfway through the year?
Yeah. I think first year college, I want to say it's 1 year or 2 years. But by then, like, you need to decide like what your major is. So your first 2 years, you're just going to be taking your English classes, your science classes. Like, I had classes my first year with like engineering majors, and I was a business major. So if you decide by then, and you have guidance counselors within each program to help guide you on like what it is that you want to do, especially in the first year of college. And so they'll tell you, okay, you're thinking about being an engineer. Well, let's see, you've already fulfilled like your general education requirements. By your second year, you should be able to switch into the program, and then you'll just be taking like your program classes only. There's no like general education classes that you have left to do. So to answer your question, no, like you'll be fine if you go into first year college. Yeah.
All right. So you still have time during your undergrad to figure out what major you want. It's
Yes.
not like a something you do for
Yes.
your first 4 years. All right. And then the second thing was, I heard that like, as long as you get the highest GPA you can in any major, that's all they really need for you, as long as you have those credits from your
Say that again?
undergrad from before. So basically, like, if you pick a major, or not a major actually, I think it might be like, no, it is a major. So like, let's say you did a major in dancing, but like you did really good at it, and you had like a really good GPA. If you have those credits from beforehand that were about science, you could still apply for something.
No. From my understanding, you still have to do an application when you change your major. So to get into the College of Engineering, which George could probably speak more on about, but there's still more like they don't just let you in. Like, there's certain steps you have to take. So no, I would not say that's the case. I mean, you should want to do well in your classes, but no. Yes. Sorry, we got the mic police on today.
Okay. Is it true? Is it true that even if you know what you want to major in, it's best to put it undecided if it's like a well-known major, like psychology? A lot of people want to do psychology, and like a lot of people are applying for psychology, but they want to take people, like the school wouldn't want to take people that want to major in psychology, so they put undecided instead. And
No.
then
So
something else.
most of the time when you apply, okay, the question was, if you know you want to go into a very generalized program or a very big program, is it better to just put undecided? Because if I'm understanding your question right, like there's going to be a high volume of applicants all trying to get into that same program. No. Usually you can rank like first choice, second choice, third choice. Your first choice should always be what you want to do. If you want to be in the College of Psychology, put that as your first choice. Now you can put undecided as like your second choice, or they don't call it undecided, they call it first year college at State. You put that as your second choice, but don't do that, because you don't know if you have Like you may have the requirements to just get in, and then you save yourself like an extra step of having to get into. George, I know you had something you wanted to say. Good. There's another hand in the back. Yes. Hold on. Wait for the mic.
What if you don't put undecided, but put it like a major that's like no one applies for it, and then transfer into another major?
I mean, it works. You might take some useless classes that you're not going to need, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant by, like, don't put all of them in the same college. Okay, so that's what I meant by don't put all of your choices in the same college. So let's say you want to be a computer science engineer, okay? That's like a very hard degree. That's a very hard degree. So let's say you want to be a computer science engineer. You don't think you have the grades to get in, or I don't know, for some reason you're not. You can apply, you can put that as your first choice because that's within the College of Engineering. But let's say your second choice is business management. Okay, that's in the College of Management. So what happens is the department that's looking at it, the computer science, they're gonna look at your application first because that's your first choice. Let's say they say no. They're like, you know what, we just don't think that she's a good fit for our program. They don't automatically reject you altogether. Let's say they see that your second choice is the College of Management, they're gonna send it to the College of Management. Your SAT score requirement, let's say it's your SAT score, for example. Your SAT score for being in the computer science program is probably not the same as what you need to get into the business management program. So in essence, yes, it is easier to get into. And can you change it halfway through? Yes, you can. There's plenty of people that have done that. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's what I mean by if you put your first choice as computer science, your second choice as mechanical engineering, and your third choice as like civil engineering, that's all within the College of Engineering. They probably all have the same requirements, more or less. I know I'm like, don't know anything about engineering.
So if it's
Yeah.
get declined by the first choice,
It's gonna get declined by all of them.
it's getting reviewed by the College of Engineering. It's not by the civil.
This is probably too detailed and probably doesn't make, but the decisions are made centrally. The colleges and the departments don't see your application.
I had something else to say. So I remember what you were talking about to like put something.
It's central at
حاجة
the
سهلة
university
نحطها في الميجر as a backup. We had someone transferring from Wake Tech that put something. He was transferring for engineering and he knew that he might not get in, so he put I think physical education حاجة كده, and he got in physical education. And the problem is, after he gets sent to NC State, now he has to code into a CODA, I think. It's called CODA. You need to apply for that college afterwards, after he takes some classes to CODA into the engineering program. So you're going basically through like 3 different like application
You're going
process.
through a whole, yeah.
Yes.
Let me just say, this is
But that's a workaround.
really, really complicated. If you don't understand it, the safest thing is to go undecided for a year and then make a decision, because the CODA system, at least in NC State, I don't know about the other universities, but in the NC State, understanding what CODA means and how it's going to apply to you and the department that you're going into requires that you be on the inside, not on the outside. So if you don't know in advance, just go undecided and then make the decision after you get it.
Okay. Does the same thing apply when you're changing majors? Because that's technically what.
Yes. Yes. It's reviewed by. Yeah.
That's a.
Something about changing major, but really quickly. If you exceed a specific number of credits, if you keep changing your major and عمال تاخد في classes, if you exceed a specific number of credits, you're going to start paying 1.5 times the tuition. ماشي? You're going to pay 50% more of what you were.
But you have to do it like, you all will not get to that point, I promise you. Like, when you get through college.
We know someone that.
Okay, we're not gonna talk about that. I promise you guys, once you get into college, even if you're sitting right here and you don't know what you want to do, once you start college, it will become clear. You're not going to be one of those people that needs to change their degree 4 or 5 times. If you need to change your degree a couple times, it'll be fine. But you will realize throughout the way, there's no need for you to do all of that. So you're going to be fine. Don't stress about it. Fedi and then Anna, Simone.
Okay, so say for example, I chose I chose like some random like A-claim major and I got in. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't some schools require you to take like spend a certain time in that major before you can actually switch your major? Like I heard some schools require you to like you have to attend like at least like a semester of classes in that major before you can switch your major.
It's gonna take you a semester to switch. How are you gonna
Because like
Oh, so some schools, I mean, some programs, if you decide to change, they're gonna want you to have like completed like your general education. So like you can't transfer until like you do English 101 or English 120 or different things like that. I'm gonna make it simple. If you get into a program that you don't want to go to and you want to change your major, when you start, go see your counselor and say, hey, my goal is to transfer into computer science. How do I do that? And they will say you need to do A, B, and C, and then apply, and then you'll get in. Or those are the steps. So don't worry about like what time it is, because it's all going to be different depending on what school you go to. So there's not a general answer. But your counselor will have an answer as far as like what the steps are if you want to change your major. Anna Simone, and then I think there was a question in the back.
Okay, so this is a little unrelated, but can you have different people write your letter of recommendations for different colleges, or do you only have like a set number and it just sends to all the colleges?
No, you can. I think like if you use like one of those like general applications, like the Common App, it'll just send it to all the different schools. But each school has like their own individual application. So if you want to change, I mean, it's up to you. If not, most of the time it's like not too big of a deal. The question was, does changing your major cause you to fall behind? It can. If you complete a whole bunch of credits that don't transfer to your next program, you still have to, you still have to meet the minimum requirements to graduate. So yeah, I know somebody that changed their major. I took them an extra semester to graduate. But there's also people that took an extra 2 years to graduate, which there's nothing wrong with. If you don't finish in 4 years, like it's not a big deal. But we just want you to realize, like, you guys are not going to be you're not going to be having to change your major like 5 or 6 times. Like that's not going to happen. So don't freak out about that.
So like if you change it once, you should be okay.
You should be fine. And like I said,
No, it's not. You have a checklist. Think of it as a checklist. You need to finish, in order to get this degree, you have to finish all these courses. If in the switch you manage to satisfy the same, then you're not going to lose any time. But if you don't, you don't, right? So there is no answer to your question, because it really depends on what you're switching from and what you took in that major and what you're switching into and what is needed by that major, right? Okay.
yes.
Wait.
I'm sorry.
Is it recommended to have like different letters of recommendation for like different applications, or if you do it like through Common App, or does it?
So I think she asked a similar question. The question was, is it recommended to have different letters of applications for different programs?
Like, does it make a difference?
Personally, I don't think. I mean, let's say you're trying to be an engineer and you have like Uncle Street write you a good recommendation letter, and he's an engineer. I'm sure that looks very well. But I mean, if you have people that can vouch for your personal character, you changing it. Like let's say you're trying to apply to like medical school or something. Like they're not looking for you have to get a recommendation letter from from a doctor. So it's just people that can vouch for your moral character. So I wouldn't say that's like end all be all.
So recently, recommendation letters have actually been declining in importance, at least in NC State.
So how many recommendation letters you need? Like 3 at least, or more?
I don't know what they allow you to post, but yeah. So but the recommendation letters have become less and less important. So most people actually don't submit.
Except if recommendation letters have declined in importance, what has increased in importance? And on the
Well-roundedness and activities outside of the classroom.
I've done so many.
That's
You're probably gonna get into this later into the PowerPoint, but just in case, what about going to like a small university and then transferring into like NC State or another big university? Is that a good thing, or would you rather go to Wake Tech and then go?
We're gonna get into that, and George is the best one to explain that. Okay, any other questions? Sorry if I confused y'all. I promise it's not as hard as it sounds. You will be fine, I promise. You will be fine, I promise. All right, moving on. All right, decision day, you get an answer. It's gonna either be you're accepted, you're denied, you're deferred, or you're waitlisted. Accepted and denied is pretty straightforward. You either get in or you don't. Deferred, most of the time if you do like an early application, or you get an answer like a little bit earlier on, they'll say we're gonna defer an answer until next semester. So you may have to send in another transcript with like your next semester grades, and then they'll do another review and then decide. So it's kind of like they're on the fence about you. And then waitlist is, we want to let you in, but we're full. If somebody drops their seat, you can have it. And that's why you apply to more than one school. Please do not be that person that is like, I'm only going to go to state. That's the only school I'm going to apply to, and then you don't get in because then you're not going to have a plan and you're going to try and scramble. So please don't be that person. Get a head start on making a resume, building a personal statement, and getting recommendation letters. Once you get those started, the application process will be very, very simple because all it is just copy and paste to a degree. But yeah, just get to work on, you know, making your resume, building your personal statement. What is it that you want the colleges to know about you besides your GPA and your SAT score? Any other questions? Yes, Jessica. You're fine.
If you are waitlisted and then you go to another college and then you're not on the waitlist anymore and they will accept you, is the transfer process complicated or is it simple?
That's above my head. I'm sure there's a process to it, but by the time you go to another school, you probably have to like pay a deposit, and by then, you know, they're probably going to be like, oh, you can start next semester. So I'm sure there's a process behind it. That's something you can talk to your counselor about. Anything else before we move on to financial aid? I've been up here way too long. Okay. All right, moving on. How to afford college. Here is, I believe this is last year's numbers. This is what the GPA, this is what the tuition is for the big three schools. So you can see in-state versus out-of-state tuition. We will get to that in a minute. But you can see it ranges from $24,000 all the way up to $70,000. And that can be per year, per 4 years. All right. So let that sink in. Don't worry. I promise you, if you want to go to college and you don't think you can afford it, there will be a way. All right. First thing we're going to talk about, public schools versus private schools. Public schools are funded by the government. They give out grants. They give out tuition loans. They're funded. They have government money coming in. Private schools do not. So Duke is a private school. Wake Forest is a private school. Campbell is a private school. They do not have money coming in from the government. That's the main difference. Residency is a big thing. So we looked at the previous slide. It had in-state tuition. You can see, for example, NC State is $25,000. Out-of-state tuition is $42,000. That does not include room and board. That's tuition and fees. So you can see if you're an in-state, a North Carolina resident, you pay significantly less money than somebody that would be coming from California to go to school here in North Carolina, which we're in a state where there is numerous amounts of schools, so you really should not have to like apply outside of North Carolina if you don't want like to be able to go to school. We have plenty of schools here, unless, you know, your goal is like Harvard or Yale, then go right ahead. To be a resident, you have to live in North Carolina for at least 1 year. So for most of you, that's not really a problem. You have to prove that you're a resident by showing this is where you live, something like to that extent. And the public schools are actually some of the cheapest in the nation. So like North Carolina colleges are some of the most like affordable ones in the United States. All right, good news. There's financial aid. So you can get through college and you won't have to pay that much money that we showed on the first slide. And there's financial aid. There's government aid. There's merit-based aid. There's private loans. We're going to go through each one. The first one is the FAFSA. The FAFSA opens early now. It is open now in October. And it opens on October 1st, and it's FAFSA.gov. And what you're going to do is on October 1st, if you're a senior and you're about to go into college next year, you're going to sit down with your parents and you're going to fill out the FAFSA, because it will use your parents' taxes, because most of you guys are probably too young to work. If you do have a job, you'll use some of that, but most of it is your parents' income, because it's based on how much your parents make. They will use their tax income to do this like big long calculation, but basically it's like plugging in, and they'll just retrieve everything from the IRS and then send it to the school. And that's how they determine how much need-based aid you need. Yes. Yeah. So if you don't know the answer, because I know the FAFSA is really complicated, I just did my last one forever and ever, thank God. It's really complicated, but the easy way is it just pulls everything that you submitted to the IRS or that your parents submitted to the IRS, and it'll plug it in for you, and you don't have to worry about it. Do it. It opens in October. Yes, Fedi.
So, say for example, well, since it opens in October, that's before. So even if I did early admission, and I know my results in like November, December, and FAFSA opens in October.
Still send it to any school that you apply to. So the FAFSA is a generalized financial aid for federal student assistance. So it's money from the federal government that's coming. So when you go onto the FAFSA, it's going to say, where do you want to send this information to? You can put all of the schools that you applied, check it, and send it to them. So if you get in, they already have your FAFSA, and they can determine how much money they want to give you. And if you don't get in, they're just not they're gonna disregard it. It's not gonna be like a problem. But you always want to just go ahead, whatever school that you're applying to, go ahead and also send them up your FAFSA, and you can send it to more than one person. It's free, it doesn't cost any money, and basically based on how much it's going to cost you to attend, how much your parents' incomes are, different things like if they have multiple children in college at the same time, different stuff like that, they will say, okay, you're eligible for this amount of money in grant. A grant is free money, you don't have to pay it back. So they say, hey, you get $5,000 in grant money, you got a $5,000 credit on your tuition bill. So that's money from the government. Do it fast, do it early, because the government runs out of money very fast. So, yes.
I feel like this is a really dumb question, but what's the difference between aid and FAFSA? You might have already answered this, I'm sorry.
No. So FAFSA is aid. FAFSA is aid. So FAFSA stands for Federal Application, Financial Application for Federal Student Assistance, something like that. It's aid. It's free money, okay? It's free money. So a grant, as you can see, a grant is need-based. Based on how much money your parents make and how much your tuition bill is, they may say, okay, we're gonna give her a grant of $5,000. You don't have to pay that back. A scholarship is based on, it can be based on being a minority, it can be sports, performing very high academically, it's based on your merits. A loan, you have to pay back a loan, okay?
So FAFSA is financial aid.
FAFSA is financial aid, yes. So you will submit your FAFSA to all of the schools. Whatever school you get into will have their own separate individual financial aid application as well, where they will look at your FAFSA in addition to, they may ask you to complete some other stuff, some other information, and then that will be your whole financial aid packet for the school. And then from there, they will decide, okay, she's already gotten, let's say $5,000 from the federal government, from the FAFSA. We're also going to give her a $2,000 scholarship because she did really, really well on her SAT, and she's playing sports. So we'll give her another scholarship. So it's all encompassing. Yes. So submit your FAFSA even if you don't have an answer from the college. If you apply to the college, send your FAFSA. Once you get admitted to the college, then they will contact you to do a financial aid application because, like, they know you're going to go there, so they'll go through that with you. Yes, and then Maria.
So I think you already answered this, but like for federal loans, the difference between that and a FAFSA is that you have to pay them back with the federal loan. And then
if you can avoid it, avoid taking out a loan in undergrad, because if you plan to go to grad school, you don't have an option. They don't give you grant money in grad school, like law school. Trust me, I have plenty of loans. So try to go through your first avenues first. If for absolute worst case, you just can't, and you still need to be able to cover something, then you can resort to a loan. And there are federal loans where like they don't give you interest like while you're in school, which is like above and over your head. You don't have to like know about this now, hopefully. Okay, scholarships. Go visit your guidance counselor. There's a website called fastweb.com. You literally make a profile. You can say, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in business, I'm Egyptian, I like sports. And it'll make like a customized profile of like recommended scholarships that you can apply for. So like there's a scholarship for being an Egyptian American. I'm sure there's a scholarship for being Coptic. If you like basketball, there's like the YMCA has a scholarship, different things like that. Yes, I'm sorry.
So how do you get grants?
Your FAFSA. Your grants are based on your parents' income. So your FAFSA determines that. Yes.
Okay, so can you start on fastweb.com and create like a profile and start applying while you're a junior, or can you only do that?
Yeah,
as
I think you can. I want to say there was like applications where it's like, oh, juniors can only apply to this. Like, I'm pretty sure you can do that. So when you go on there, it'll tell you, like, it'll say click like what your like classification is, and then you can say junior, and then it might give you some stuff then. Majority for seniors, but there may be some for juniors too. Any other questions? All right, real quick about federal loans. Unsubsidized loans are loans without, and I always get it flipped. There are federal subsidized and unsubsidized loans. One of them is no interest while you're in school. So you take out the loan, you don't have to pay it until 4 years later when you graduate. The other kind of loan, which is the grad school loan, the minute they put it in your bank account, you accumulate interest. So if I took out a loan my first year of law school, 3 years later, I've had 3 years of interest just sitting there. That's accumulating, accumulating, accumulating. When I graduate, they're gonna come knocking and say, hey, you need to pay us back. So that's why we always say try not to do loans if you can, because you will have to pay it back, and sometimes there is interest on it, so it'll increase. Good? All right. So this is just an example. So for an example, I wish Melanie was here because she could explain this better than I can. But for Duke, Duke is a private school. You saw how much Duke costs, $70,000 a year. For a family that has an income of $50,000, they may pay only $13,000 a year in tuition, not $70,000. So it's always based on how much, like what your family's income is, and then like how you do well in school. Like they'll give you money in addition to that. This is a link if you want to take a picture of it. You can like plug it in if you are really set on going to Duke and you want to know if you can afford it. You can like plug in your information, and then it'll spit out an estimate of what you may have to pay out of pocket. And then if you're really concerned about how to pay for college, please go to your guidance counselor at school. They can help you. And they may be able to make an appointment with you to talk to the financial aid office at the university that you want to go to. So yeah, in conclusion, if you work hard and you do well, money should not be what stops you from going to college. There are ways around it. We live in a nation where that shouldn't be a problem. Any other questions about financial aid, applying to college? I've been up here for way too long. No? Great, thank you.
Okay. Hi guys. براي. And this is live stream. ممكن نقطع الحتة دي. Okay. Before I talk about transfer, and I just remembered something good for you guys to know. There is a college fair that's done at the convention center once a year. بيجي في there's universities and colleges from all around the US. They come and you can go explore what majors they have, what programs they have, كل الحاجات دي. And I think it's this one, the next one is coming is in March. Yes, you can just Google college fair Raleigh, and the website's gonna come up with the date, and it's gonna be at the convention center downtown. March. Yes. You want the specific date? Give me 1 second. Thursday, March 19th. 2020. March 19. You have to register online.
Why don't you send send me the link, and I'll send it. If you want it, I'll send it to you, or we'll post it online.
Done.
Right?
Matter.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. We're gonna talk about transfer. So you guys heard Georgia. You have to take the SAT and the ACT and do good, and take them more than once, and apply to more than one university والحاجات دي كلها. I didn't do any of these. So, I took the SAT in my senior year, so it was very, very late to improve my scores. I think the ACT is mandatory. You take it in your. but I didn't do very well in the ACT برضه. And I applied only to NC State and UNC Charlotte, and UNC Charlotte needed my transcripts from my high school in Egypt, so that was. So I ended up only applying for NC State, got denied, got to Wake Tech. Okay, it's not bad. It's not bad. We're gonna talk about all of this now. What? شوية. بس we're gonna talk about everything دلوقتي. Why start at the community college? I have a question. But who here have a vague idea about what they want to study? A vague idea. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, if you really don't know what you want to study, please don't waste your parents' money and go to a community college. It's it's expensive. Don't. Okay, so the community college is a lot less expensive than going to a 4-year university. So if we talk like Wake Tech to NC State, you're gonna pay from 4 to 5 times more at NC State than what you're paying at Wake Tech. Yes. If there is, even with financial aid, ساعات بتبقى it's still too much. Okay. Plus بقى when you add housing and meals ومش عارف and your gas going back and forth, it builds up a lot. Okay. A good place to start if you don't know what you want to major in, and we just said that. Okay. Small classes similar to high school. Okay. So how many students do you have in your classes for high school? 30. Okay. That's probably like maximum is going to be 40 students per class at the community college. So you're not going to have a big hall with like 400 students in a freshman class, like in a chemistry or a physics course, like at NC State. So it's very, very small. You have the full attention of your professors, of your teachers. And you have access to their office hours. Sometimes at NC State, at the big universities, when you go, the classes are so big, especially for these freshman courses, and you don't have access to the teacher or to your professor. You only have access to your TA, which is teacher assistant, and sometimes they're not as resourceful or as helpful as getting the information from your professor. Because bardo these teaching assistants there are graduate students that they have their research that they're working on. They don't always bardo have the time. So smaller classes, less expensive. If you don't know what you want to study, it's a good place to go to. When you get your associate degree, all your GEPs gets checked off when you transfer. Does anyone here knows what are GEPs? The GEPs. These are your general education courses, like your history, your psychology, sociology, whatever you're taking. So you're not gonna be worried about you took these classes and they're not gonna transfer to NC State, for example. And we're talking here about the programs that the community colleges have with the UNC system. The UNC system, that means all the public universities in North Carolina. Yes. Are you good? Okay. So these are just, we're talking about transferring from community colleges in North Carolina to a 4-year university, a public 4-year university in North Carolina. Okay. Doesn't have to be NC State. These programs are with the UNC system. UNC system is all the public universities in North Carolina. NC State, UNC Chapel Hill, Greensboro, ECU, UNC Charlotte, كل public schools, كل public universities in North Carolina. Okay, why not? In most cases, it adds one extra semester to your 4-year degree. I finished my engineering degree in 4.5 years instead of 4 years. Most of the time when you go to a community college, they're trying to make you stay until you finish your degree. Even if you don't want to finish your degree, you just want to transfer. خلاص, you finished your transfer requirement and you want to transfer to a 4-year university. You know what you want to do. Sometimes they try to make you stay, finish your degree. It's understandable because when you transfer before you get your degree, that lowers their graduation rate. So it doesn't look good for them. بس يعني sometimes they make you stay longer. Sometimes you take classes that don't transfer, or you take multiple classes that transfer to one class. So for example, English 111 and English 112, these are 2 English courses at Wake Tech that transfer to only 1 English course at NC State. You have to take both of them to transfer the English 101 at NC State. The computer science, there is an intro, and then there is another one that you need to take to satisfy the computer science requirement for transfer. That's an example. And these are like 3 credit hour courses each. They're long. Yes?
So what are the common requirements for you to transfer if you're not finishing a degree or like the associate's degree?
Okay, let's go through these really quickly. It's going to be different from program to program.
Can you get compensated whenever you do like 2 classes per se, like that transfer only once? Can you get like something?
It's going to transfer to.
It's just
to
that
one. Yes.
one transfer.
The transfer requirements from one university, from one program, from one major to another these are going to be different. Okay, but the most common are your English 111, English 112. These are the English composition classes that are going to transfer to English 101, for example, at NC State. If you're doing engineering, then you're going to have to take your chemistry, Calc 1 and Calc 2 at least, and Physics 1. These are the minimum to transfer.
So it's just a matter of like transfer credits, not just like finishing a degree and then going
Yes.
into.
There is you have 2 options. If you know what you want to do, you can transfer right away. You finish your transfer requirement, you can transfer right away, or you can wait, finish your degree, finish all your GEPs, and then transfer.
Does your community college GPA transfer with you when you transfer into a university?
Okay, so that's a very good point. Every time you transfer from one institution to another, you start with 0. Your GPA goes back to 0. You start from the beginning. So if you transfer with a very, very high GPA, and then you start at UNC, Chapel Hill, you start from 0. So if you finish all your GEP, for example, at Wake Tech, and then go to UNC, you finish all your history and general education courses that really like build your GPA, help your GPA, and then you transfer to UNC, for example, you're going to start with all the core classes that are very hard. Yes.
Okay, say that you finish all your course or like credit requirements at Wake Tech and you want to transfer, like, say for example, to UNC. Do they have to accept you, or like they could just say no?
No. So there is an agreement with the North Carolina Community College and the UNC system, the public universities, that you're guaranteed admission in one of the UNC system schools, one of the UNC system universities, once you get your associate degree, based on a good standing. And based on your grades. يعني بس هو it doesn't specify if you're gonna get where you're gonna get accepted, or all these stuff. Yes. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Jessica الأول معلش يعني. Go ahead.
So, GPA wise, and you saying like when you go to a different college and you start from 0, if you do the CCP program while you're in high school, does that give a head start to your GPA when you enter college, or does not affect it?
Okay.
It's like you go take college
okay.
classes during high school. Yeah.
I think if you continue in the same institution, so if you're taking the credits, these classes at NC State, I think they should count. But I'm not 100% sure. I might be wrong. You need to ask the admission office. Maybe. But
Volunteer. Ask someone who knows. Yes.
So then, what would be a con if you just went all 4 years in a community? Like,
There is no 4-year degree from a community college.
oh, it's just two,
The
like,
maximum you're gonna get is either
a bachelor?
associate in science, associate in art. They used to have associate in science pre-engineering. Now they have a different associate degree called associate in engineering right away. Okay.
So the classes you take in WIC Tech are like off, but they don't count towards your GPA. Is that what you're saying?
What do you mean by off?
Like you don't have to take them again.
Yes. Yes,
But you
you're
don't-
gonna
they
get
don't
credit
count
for
your
them, but
GPA.
make sure that the classes that you're taking are
Equivalent to what you're
equivalent to something in your major that are gonna transfer to the program that you want.
taking. And don't they basically give you like your common classes at WIC Tech? That way you don't have to take them again, like English and math and stuff like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so
Check it.
let's go. Let's say like you go to Wake Tech and then you go to university and then your classes are so hard and your GPA is like really bad. Can that impact you when you're applying for a job?
Repeat that again, معلش أنا ما سمعت.
Okay.
Your GPA at Wake Tech was bad, but when
No,
you
no, you have a good GPA at Wake Tech, and then you transfer into a university, and you said that when you transfer into a university, your classes are hard, and like you're taking the hard classes. So let's say you do bad in the hard classes, and your GPA is like low. Can that impact you when you're applying for jobs?
it might.
Or applying for grad school.
That definitely will.
That's gonna impact a lot. That's
By
gonna impact.
definition, low GPA is not a good idea.
Yes. Yes. If you look at it, if you're applying for a job and you're the person that's hiring and you have two candidates, one has a 3.7 GPA and the other one has a 3.2. Who يعني هتاخدي مين؟
So the end of the day is not a good idea to start with community college.
مش دايما. There is a cost effect. There is.
But if they make you take more classes that you don't need, then the
Here's the thing. Once you know what you want to study, you should be following up with the admission office from the university that you wanna attend. Make sure that you check regularly the transfer requirement for this university. Sometimes they change. And when I started at Wake Tech, I think the GPA for transfer to NC State went up. It's يعني you should be keeping up with the requirements. Okay. Yes.
So, is there a specific website like would College Board let me see like what they need when you need like the classes that you take at community to
Okay.
transfer? Oh.
Okay. By university and by degree. So if you خلاص you decided, for example, you wanna study this at this school. So I'm gonna be following up at this school's website. Make sure I'm looking at the right major that I wanna study, and check regularly what their transfer requirements are. What classes? Maybe some classes that I'm taking now are gonna transfer, maybe not. The GPA went up, for example. حاجات كده. Okay.
So if you don't know what you want to do by the end of time you finish WIC Tech, it's best to stay WIC Tech and like take more classes or
لا
transfer.
انت يعني at the end of the day at Wake Tech you should know what you want to study. There are counselors. There is a lot of counselors at Wake Tech that can help you with the major that you يعني deciding what major you should study وحاجات كده كتير.
I mean, like, I'm not just talking about major, like in general, like you might not afford to go to university, so it's better to stay. Like so many conditions where you would like.
You're not going to get a bachelor's.
Yes,
from
you're not going to get a 4-year degree.
It's an AA, associate degree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right.
Something.
The last point is that Wake Tech, specifically Wake Tech, has tons of campuses, يعني a lot of campuses here. There is North Campus here on Lewisburg Road, the main campus, Fayetteville. There is Western Campus in Cary. There is a new campus, the RTP campus in Morrisville. They have a lot of campuses everywhere that offers a lot of same sections, other sections from the same courses that you might need to take. Okay.
Nope, you changed the presentation.
I'm sorry. Yes, you have Durham Tech. Yeah, there is a lot of community colleges that are not Wake Tech. There is Durham Tech. There is in Fayetteville, and I don't know all of them, but يعني, they all are in the same agreement, I think, with the UNC system, the transfer program that they have. Okay, some stuff about the community college. You pay for the credits you take. So basically, at Wake Tech, you pay per credit. If you look at the tuition at NC State, for example, it tells you if you take between this and this many credits, you're gonna pay this. And once you reach full time, it's gonna be the same. No, at Wake Tech, full time is 12 credit hours. At Wake Tech, it doesn't matter if you're full time or not, you pay per credit. So if you take 12 credit hours, you take 18, you're gonna pay for 12 or you're gonna pay for 18. At NC State, or at the 4-year university, you're gonna pay for full time, as a full-time student. You're not gonna be paying more after 12 credit hours. We discussed the point about the guaranteed a spot on UNC system based on your grade. You don't have to get an associate degree to transfer. So we talked about this. If you went to a community college, you know now what you want to study. You check the transfer requirement. You finish the transfer requirement, and you want to transfer right away. You can do it. You don't have to wait and finish your associate degree. Don't say I'm going to a community college. I don't need to take the SAT or the ACT. You really need to take the SAT and the ACT because there are placement tests for English and math at Wake Tech before you start. So if you do good, you're gonna start at college level math, at calculus. If you do bad, you're gonna start in pre-calculus. If you do bad in English, you're not gonna start at the college level composition English, the English 111 or whatever. If you do bad, you're gonna start from like 090 or like 080 حاجات كده. And there are lower. If you do bad, you're gonna start at a very, very low English level. Placement tests. There is placement tests for English and math. After you finish, there is two placement tests for math. One for your regular high school math, and then one to place out of the high school math, and then go to start with calculus. So if you take the first one and you did good, you're gonna start with pre-calculus. If you take the second one and you do good, you're gonna start at calculus right away. There's 2 placement tests for math.
You have to take those.
Okay. If you have a good score in the SAT in math, you're gonna. The first one is basically waived. You can take the second one right away. But take the second one. It's important. If you do good in the first one, or the first one is waived for you, take the second one. How to transfer? We talked a lot about this. Check the transfer requirement before you register for classes for the community college. So خلاص, and I know this is my major that I want to study. This is the university that I want to attend. I check regularly their website, their admission office, make sure that I'm on the right track, make sure that the track classes I'm registering for are going to transfer. وكل الحاجات دي. Do not depend on your advisor at the community college. Maybe their information are not updated. Maybe they want to make you stay until you finish your degree, and you don't want to stay until you finish your degree. You want to transfer right away. So do not depend on them. Okay? Apply to more than one school, and I made this clear. I made this clear.
Do like
Okay.
he says, not like he did.
Yes. Yes. Any questions? Okay. Abanoop.
Thank you very much, George. أبونا اتفضل. Okay.
No, I'm not. I know. I'm like speaking as a because like he said, transfer if not, then wait till you finish your associate's degree. I asked him a question in a different way. Don't worry. I want to finish school in the least years possible.
All right, guys, keep this short. Don't live on campus. It sucks. Thank you. Good night. Living on campus. Okay, this is very simple. It's not as complicated as the previous ones. Why would you want to live on campus? Or why is it that schools try and make you live on campus, right? Geographical proximity. They want you to be close. Why? You spend your money on campus. They want you to spend as much money as you can. Of course, some schools you can live. If you live in the city, you're around the school, it's easy for you to get there. If you get accepted at one of the other schools like UNC Chapel Hill or Pembroke or Charlotte or ECU, you need to live there because you can't be doing the commute every day. It's not easy, it's not feasible, it's wastes a lot of time and effort. Some schools have this mandatory first year student live on, where you need to live on campus. Even if you are from this city, you still need to live on campus in your first year, right? NC State unfortunately drank the Kool-Aid, and now they're doing the same thing where you have to spend the first year on campus. Because they're saying, oh, well, we did some studies, and it shows that students get to, get better grades and have like better chemistry with the others because they've been living on campus, and woohoo. Not necessarily true, I don't think so. But what I'm saying is that there might be an appeal that I found online that you get to do, that you can say like, hey, I've got some bogus, like baloney of an excuse that, oh, I can't be living with people. And, for whatever reason, it's religious or whatever, and you try to file that appeal, and if you got lucky, you might waive the idea of staying the first year on college, like on campus. But for the most part now, it became hard, and most of you, no matter where you apply, you're gonna end up spending the first year on campus, unfortunately. Yeah, so look into that appeal thing. If you guys want more information about the appeal thing, you can find me after. I can bring it out to you. There are a couple reasons. I think there's like a list of requirements that you need to fulfill to be able to make that appeal, so you wouldn't live on campus. But looks like it's necessary even for the first year. But again, if you apply at a school that is local, even after the first year where you live on campus, for the following years, you have the choice to live at home and basically commute. And that's what I did. And that's what everybody else who lived here and went to NC State did. So that's why you need to go to NC State. Pros of living on campus. You don't waste time in traffic. I think I spent most of my years in college stuck in traffic. So it's not fun, and Raleigh is becoming very crowded, right? So there's a lot of traffic that you get stuck in when you're driving every day to school. So when you live there, you don't do that. You sleep a lot. You sleep more. So because you're on campus, you get to class. Like a lot of people like end up going there in their pajamas, right? So it's cool. It's really cool. I had to wake up and like a couple hours in advance, so to count for the time I drive and park my car and take the bus and get there. So there's a lot of time wasted. So you sleep more and study more basically on campus. You have easier access to school resource. So the libraries, the office hours, the gym, all the cool stuff that you have on campus is easily accessible when you live there, because you don't have to be like, okay, I'm gonna take my gym clothes with me so I can go to the gym after. So it's easier when you're on campus, right? All of the other activities on campus, if you decide to do like the scholars program or the honors program, there are way more requirements that you need to do so that you fulfill those things, so you can consider like an honors student or a scholar student. And there's like, you need to be on campus for a longer time basically. So if you live there, it's easy because you can go to your dorm after you're done, and then you can change, and then you can go to your event. If you're an engineer, if you're wanting to do engineering, there's a lot of engineering cool stuff on campus that happens. I haven't been lucky to be able to get at any of them because I always wanted to go home and sleep. But it's cool, and it adds to your resume. So I really wish I joined the Formula One, for example, team, because they do a lot of cool stuff, and it's very important and it's very impressive on the resume. So yeah, so that's basically it. Oh yeah, it teaches you how to depend on yourself. Most of you probably don't know anything about life, so living alone kind of teaches you that. You do? Do you know how to cook? Or are you gonna live off of ramen? I lived off of ramen, all right, and I'm talking about myself, and DiGiorno pizzas. So yeah, do you know how to do your what?
So how exactly would you do? Say for example, I go to UNC Charlotte, which is like 2.5 hours from Raleigh, and at Tarita I have to live on campus. Right. How would I do my laundry? Like how would you do it?
Ask your mom. Well, that's what I'm talking about. When you live there, you gotta have to learn some stuff about being an adult.
Where exactly would I?
Oh, so it depends. It really depends on the dorms. So some of them are like nicer. Some of them, if you're first year, that's the problem. If you're a first year, they put you in the worst dorms that they have. Yeah, they put you in the ones that are like have like leaks, and you gotta like go like 7 stories down to do your laundry, and you have to wait in line, you know, and then you use the same washer and dryer as everybody else, and that's not very sanitary. It's
So I
تنشره ايوه تعلق بالمشهد.
I want to put Abanoob's presentation in context here. Okay, so the main reason I asked Abanoob to talk about this, he lived actually away, but not while he was in NC State. I mean, it was a co-op.
Yeah.
But here's the point. The point is, it sounds as a high school student like living on campus is going to be all fun.
Oh, I'm
and
coming.
it really is not. But if you have to, they actually make it doable for you. It's not the end of the world if you go, but if you can avoid it, do avoid it. That's the bottom line. Please.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to get at. Yeah, that's you learn how to depend on yourself, and you learn to appreciate your parents because they used to do all this kind of stuff to you. Now you're alone
Do
without
appreciate
your mom.
your parents, please.
Yeah, you will learn like how important your parents are once you're alone and nobody takes care of you, and you're not as important as you are, and your opinion is not as important as it used to be, and nobody cares about you, and you're just alone. So you'd be like, oh, I miss my friends and family. That's what I'm telling you. Don't live on campus. Anyway, cons. Moving in is such a hassle. Moving out is such a hassle. Everybody hates the idea of moving in and moving out, right? You live away from church, you live away from family, and you live away from friends, and you miss on a lot of things. So when I was in Greensboro for my co-op, people did a lot of cool stuff, and I was stuck over there, bored, didn't do anything, you know? And now when I'm in Oklahoma, I do the same thing. I'm stuck. I just keep watching Netflix, right? Everybody's doing stuff. Church is going on. People are like, whether they're going to Tisbeha or they have like activities going on, and I'm just stuck there, you know, like watching Netflix. It's not fun. It's work. I don't get to choose. But roommates is a big problem where there's a high possibility of you can end up. Some people get lucky and they end up with cool people. Some people end up with like really annoying roommates, and you're stuck with them for the rest of the semester, and they can be. That's the problem is that some of them are not the coolest people to hang out with, and then you'll find yourself getting into arguments about politics and religion and stuff like that. What? You want?
So, say for example, I'm moving in. I have to like stay on campus. Do I have to necessarily stay in a dorm? Like, what's the difference between a dorm or if I got an apartment?
No, so the first year mandatory live on is you living on dorms.
Like second year, for example.
No, second year is it's up to you where you live. You don't have to live on you talk about the university-owned dorms versus like Valentine Commons and Stanhope, and right? That's what you're talking about, right? Yeah. So,
like the province, like where would you would student loans pay for like an apartment?
So you talk about loans, and would it help you afford for the apartment, right?
Like say for example, I don't want to live in a dorm.
Yeah, I don't think loans are enough for you to pay rent, to be honest, if you want to live alone.
That's why you get roommates and stuff. But like, would living in an apartment be better than living in a dorm? Like, is it?
It's essentially the same thing. You have more freedom, you have more privacy. That's the better part. But essentially the same thing. You choose your roommates, which is a good point. You do choose the people you live with.
Student loans would be able to pay for the apartment, or would that like have to come out of my own pocket?
So there's a bunch of loans that you can accept. You can accept as much loans as you can put yourself in debt as much as you want. Nobody's gonna tell you not to do it, man. Banks are happy when you put yourself in debt. Would you want to take every single loan that is offered to you? No, that's not what I did. I only took one unsubsidized loan, but the rest of the loans I took were the subsidized ones, which were like $2,000 a semester or something like that. They're good for you to for your expenses and stuff like that, but they're not enough, I think, for you to pay for the campus housings and stuff like that, because they're expensive. Like you will be renting a room and a bathroom for like $500, $600, $700 a month, a lot. So maybe if you actually rent an apartment outside of like the college, like 15 minutes out or something like that, it'll be cheaper. But anyway, yeah. So roommates suck most of the time. I don't like living with people. Comfort is not guaranteed, right? What? Right. Yeah. So I
Live streaming, so be careful.
Oh no. So for college I was lucky because I lived in Raleigh and I drove to the campus. When I was in Greensboro, I was not roommates, but I was renting a room in a 90-year-old man's house. So he wasn't a problem most of the time because I lived upstairs and he couldn't use the stairs anyway. Not bad. In Oklahoma is a problem because I live with two people. They're not very clean. So the first yeah, it wasn't very good the first week I get there, and it's messy, and I had to clean after them, and they had like empty bottles everywhere and trash on the ground and cold and insects and ants like running up the wall, and I had to clean all that stuff. So they're not very clean people. It's not very comfortable to be in the if you've ever been to one of these dorms, your desk is under your bunk bed and it's dark and it's literally like you're standing like shoulder to shoulder with your roommate inside this room, and and it stinks. It doesn't smell good, and the bathrooms are old, and the sewers usually like end up like leaking. I'm telling you, those are the kind of dorms you live in when you're like on campus, unfortunately. Yeah, campus is not much fun. And again, roommates are not all of them are clean and neat. Some of them are like noisy and lousy, and some of them like will play music at night and stuff like that, and some of them invite like strangers. So you'll be sitting in your room, and then a dude just walks in, and you can't tell them like, hey, you can't do that. They'll be like, what? It's my room as much as it's yours. So like unless you want people like randomly, I've seen that happening where people literally like walking in the girls' dorms and just they're hanging out, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. There's nothing for you to do about it. So unless you want this kind of like inconvenience, stay on campus. A lot of responsibility when you're on campus, because if you get used to your mom waking you up in the morning so you can go to school and do your homework, that's not there anymore, you will fail, right? So if you don't stay up on top of your stuff and do your work on time and open the emails, read the emails and do all this kind of stuff, nobody's gonna be like, Habibi, ruh zakir, mafish. Nobody to remind you that you need to do your assignment that is due midnight, right? You will just find out the next day that everybody's submitting something and you don't have anything to submit. And time management gets harder when you want to cook and you want to like wash your clothes and you want to study and you want to work out and you want to do all this kind of stuff. The gym is nice. Yeah, it's free for anybody. There's a lot of stuff to do on campus. It's fun. That's what I'm saying. That's the cool part of living on campus, that you have more access to this kind of stuff. Conclusion and takeaways. Everything has pros and cons. You gotta know what you're looking for exactly. What's your priorities? What do you cherish the most, right? Do you prioritize being in church and having friends and having community, having a family? Then try applying for schools that are closer to you so you can have this kind of convenience. If this is not the priority for you and you don't mind being like abandoned somewhere alone and sad, it's fine. It's up to you. I'm just saying. I'm talking about my experience. Thank you, Jessica. I am self-reflecting of like how much I've like called my mom. I was like, hey, like. Yeah, I remember when I used to say, I can't wait until I move out. Well, I am so sorry. Yeah, I didn't know what I was talking about. I really missed like being at home, being with my sister and my dog and my friends. Like cool stuff, cool life that I have here. You learn to appreciate that. But anyway, takeaways. If you have to live on campus, and again, most of you.
Sorry for this, because I have evening incense. 7 p.m. as you know, but I would like to say it is a blessing to us that you have this, the seniors and the junior, and the seniors advising the junior and teaching them. This is a blessing that we are a fruitful church. When I see you, you will be in his position, and that very important to be successful, and organized minds are successful minds. successful persons. And I would like to thank Dr. Yusri for arranging this. And every year I'm blessed by seeing you and this session every time. We glorifying God, and God bless you, and God be with you. And sorry, I am leaving for the evening incense.
Thank you, Abuna.
ابونا مسيح هيوحشكوا برضه يعني ما ينفعش تمشي وتسيب البيت برضه انا بقول له. Anyway, living on campus might be mandatory, like I said. Don't let this idea scare you. It might be mandatory that you live on campus the first year, even if you live here, even if you go on NC State. If you're doing this, be aware of some stuff. Peer pressure. Peer pressure is so well known alive. It's so real. I fell for it. A lot of people fell for it. All right. Peer pressure is real. Don't say, "Oh, my faith is strong. Oh, I have, I know myself. Oh, I will never do something wrong." Don't hang out with the people who do stuff that you don't agree with. Even if you know that you're strong-willed and everything and you will never fall for whatever they're doing, don't hang out with somebody that has different core beliefs than you are. ايه انت عندك سؤال على كل حاجه ما تسكت شويه. لا اتفضل حضرتك.
Say for example, like you said, your roommate is not so good and you're stuck with him for a semester. Say for example, your roommate brings home like drugs every single night.
You report him. That's what you do.
No, but I'm
call
saying
the cops.
like you have no option.
No option to do what exactly?
Call the cop. No.
Yeah, if they bringing drugs in, you can. There is an RA. Okay, guys. There is on each floor there is an RA that is responsible to take care of these dorms. If you see something that is wrong,
like say for example, your roommate just walks in and just like
smoking or something.
Yeah, something like that.
You can tell him, hey, excuse me, I don't really like that. If you want to do this, you're more than welcome to do it somewhere else, but don't do it in the room. And if you have to do it in the room, I'm going to have to report you. It's your right. You share space with it. If you're non-confrontational, go speak with the RA. There is a person
Just keep in mind that if he's caught and you're in the room and you didn't report, you're going to get dragged into it. Keep this in mind.
Anyway,
then you do deserve what you get. Then I will report.
Exactly. Then I'll come there and I'll beat you. That's what I'm gonna do. Before you make a decision, you need to consider stuff like your beliefs, your values, and your safety. Right?
Is it possible if you could request a roommate? I know like you don't 100%, like it's not guaranteed that you get it, but is it possible?
Yeah, so there are applications that you can fill saying that, well, let's say if mid-semester or something, you felt like there's something that is very wrong with that person and you can't live with them anymore, you can file appeals and stuff like that saying, this person me and them are not compatible for A, B, C, D, and here's why this is not working out, here's why I can't live with this person. And if they can accommodate it, most of the time they will either move you or move them to a different room, and you might end up having the whole place for yourself, which is nice. But yeah. Most of the time, you fill an application, you say your major, you say stuff like that, and they try to room you with somebody who's got similar, aspects. Like, let's say you're doing biology, you're trying to find people who are like biology students, who are this, and that. I think they let you fill like stuff like, I don't know, they take like a little stuff about your personality and they try to match people, kind of. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't really, so.
How much would you have to pay like extra if you wanted a room by yourself? Like
I don't think you're allowed to do that.
You're not allowed?
No.
No chance?
It's not an option. It happens only when something is wrong and then you have to file a complaint against your roommate.
I thought you can pick your own roommates.
If you're in the outside of campus housings, like Valentine Commons, Stanhope, all these people let you. I think in college you can, if you find somebody, you go and, but most of the time, unless you know somebody who's accepted with you at the same time, going with you from church or whatever, which is not always the situation, you will end up paired randomly. Yeah, if you have somebody with you and want to room with a person and you know that person, yeah, you apply together and there's something to do about it. Hello? Anyway, so consider your beliefs, your values, and your safety. Don't do stupid stuff. Don't hurt yourself. That's for you, because I know you'd do it. You would hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself, and before you do something, think Would Christ do this? Would Christ wait for me outside of that place if I walk in? Would he wait outside because he wouldn't like walk in with me in there? You know, like, so think about stuff like that. And always keep your priorities straight, and always keep your eyes on the prize. You're there to study, you're there to get a degree. You're not there to like, of course you're gonna make friends. It's essential to get by. But you're not there to waste your time. You're not there to like party. You're there to study. You're there to get a degree. You're there to be a responsible adult. So do that, all right? Know your self-worth and your self-value, and be confident in who you are and where you belong, right? Because people are gonna mess with you and your beliefs, and why do you believe in this, and why are you even a Christian, and have you seen that God of yours, or who's Jesus, and why do you even care about that? Why don't you do that? So you be like, hey, those are my personal beliefs. I respect you. I respect your beliefs, but I have my beliefs, and this is what I believe in. And so you need listen, surround yourself with the right people you want to be around, right? There's a lot of NC State people who do Bible studies and stuff like that from church. Join that. Have those kind of friends. Don't be around people you don't agree about what they do, because peer pressure is real. Peer pressure is so real. Don't be around people that do stuff that you don't agree with. All right. So that's it. Questions? No questions. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
At the end of the year and you're living on campus, do you have to move your stuff out, or do they just give you the same dorm every year?
No, you move yourself out. At the end of the year, you move yourself out.
So every year I have to.
That every semester, حبيبي, مش every year.
Every semester I have to.
Every
find
semester you're probably gonna end up getting your room back most of the time in the second semester, but you need to move your stuff out every single semester. I'm telling you,
they do maintenance while you're out.
Yeah.
Basically, they need it out.
You don't want to live on campus. It's not fun. I'm telling you, it's not fun. It's not like, hey, I left my parents. I am free. I get to do whatever I want. It will sting. It's not very good.
So let's thank Abanoob. And then I also think you need to thank your parents for putting up with you. Okay, just because we're way behind, so we're going to do Christina's presentation on the grades 9 through 11, and then we're going to postpone the other two presentations, which would have run in parallel. When we do the essay clinic, we're gonna do these at the same time. So it's gonna be announced when we're ready for that, all right?
Hello. Thank you. Hi. I think some of you this is like your third year of attending this same thing, so we can do it really quickly. Because my part is more about like what you should do in high school, not about the college application process a little bit. I miss you too.
So actually, how many of you are not seniors?
This never works because I like to have the transition. You're not supposed to see the X, and I'm supposed to ask you, is this a do or a don't, what this kid is doing? It's a don't. So what you should be doing in high school is not only studying. What you should be doing is becoming a well-rounded person. So, no, well-rounded. Okay, how many of y'all are in clubs? How many of y'all have a leadership position in a club? Below leadership. Okay, so in addition to doing well in school, taking hard classes, honors classes, AP classes, stuff like that, you should also be like exploring your different interests by doing clubs. And being consistent in those clubs, so not just doing like 5,000 different clubs every year and then switching them the next year, but being consistent in the same clubs and then starting to get some leadership positions in those clubs. So if you like Spanish, do Spanish club. If you like sports, try to be on a sports team. If you like music, do music, whatever. There's lots of options. Because on your application, there are 4 parts to your college application. There's going to be your transcript. That's your academics. So that's going to include your all the classes that you took. So obviously you want to take as many advanced honors AP classes as you can. However, you also have to have a good GPA. So it's not like you just take every honors class in the world. If you know that you're not going to be able to do well in all of them, you pick and choose the ones that you're able to handle. Because it's both. It's both the amount of honors classes you've taken in AP and also your GPA. Then you're going to submit your SAT or ACT score. I went to, no? What? You're stressed? Are you guys stressed? Okay, well, I took the SAT. I went to school in the north where you have to take the SAT, not the ACT. So I don't really know the difference, but people have told me that the ACT is easier, and I think all the schools in the south take the ACT, so take the ACT. However, make sure that you study before it. There's books where you can do practice tests. I highly recommend taking practice tests as if you're actually taking the tests. So like time yourself, grade yourself after, learn from the ones that you got wrong.
Oh, I had a question on that.
Yeah.
So like there's usually like a course that you can take at your school
Yeah.
that has like these set dates. Should I go
Take
and
it.
take that?
Take
or
as
is
many
it not
prep
as-
classes as you can.
Or is it just like tips and tricks?
No,
Because
take,
sometimes
take any prep classes for ACT you can.
any prep, and then like what would be like a best time as a junior to take
Oh, to
those
take
classes?
it?
Yeah,
Oh.
because there's
When
multiple.
you, after you study, for sure.
Like you have to study a lot.
Anthony, this is like your 7th time attending this.
No, I come up with new things.
Yeah.
So you were saying in the South they recommend the ACT or like they accept the ACT. Is it worse if it, does it look worse if you take the SAT and you submit the SAT instead?
I don't think it looks worse.
Okay, because I heard some things like if you're applying to schools near here, you should submit your ACT instead of your SAT score. That's what I've heard from a couple of
From
people.
what I know, they're both accepted. The SAT is harder, so I don't know why it would be worse for you to take that.
Shouldn't be the same material. I never took any, but shouldn't be the same material. Because it's math is math. I mean, English is
Yeah,
English.
what I've read is that the SAT tests what you learned in high school and if you would be successful in college. It tests both. ACT just tests what you learned in high school.
I have a question to the people that are taking ACT and SAT prep classes. Where would you find those classes? Like
Counselor.
Through what, Juju? Juju, what'd you say? Through what? Oh, we can.
Can I? Okay. This is kind of specific, but there's like a service on the ACT and the SAT where you can send your scores immediately to colleges. And I was actually I was wondering if that was like a good idea.
Depends on how confident you are.
Yeah, don't do it. Because you're gonna want to retake it.
Yeah.
If you retake it, they're gonna suck.
I think you can choose which score you send. I don't think so.
Okay, oh sorry, I didn't know you were waiting for me. Okay, so I was talking to someone and they mentioned a name of like being able to take the math score from like one SAT and then taking your English score for another.
Yeah.
What's the name of it and what schools do that? Oh yeah, super scoring. Do you know I know there's some schools that don't do that, but do you know of the schools that do?
I don't know. You would have to just look that up. That would be part of their application information.
And does it look good or does it look good just to do just one?
I think if they
Okay.
allow it, it's fine.
Okay.
People know that when you take a test one time, it doesn't say anything about. Okay. Any other questions about number 2 on your application? Okay, number 3 on your application is going to be your personal statement or your essay, which is again going to depend on the schools that you're applying to. And I have this in pink because this is the most important part of your application. everyone who applies to college has a good GPA, has taken hard classes, has joined clubs, stuff like that. The only thing that will differentiate you is your essay. That's where the person who's reading your application is going to get a sense of who this person is, and that's going to separate you from the rest. So try to really spend a lot of time and effort on your personal statements or your essays. Try to take advantage of English projects where you're allowed to write, like choose your topic for your essay and pick a school that you know you're going to apply to, find their prompt and write the essay for that for your English class. Then you will get free feedback from your English teacher on it. Yeah.
Well, what do you suggest is like the best way to present your statement? Like, is there like a PowerPoint or just a standard
Oh, it's
answer?
it's going to be a written essay.
Just a written one? You don't, can you make it a prompt or something? Or no?
Say it again.
So we're going to have a separate workshop on writing your essay, and then there will be a clinic. So you take a shot at it, and then you bring it to someone to read it and point out to you how you can improve it. But this is, no. I was going to do the presentation on how to construct it, but we're running out of time, so we're going to do them at a later date. But it's an essay, it's not a PowerPoint. It is like, it's going to read like a essay, right?
Is there any way we can make like all of this stuff available?
We're going to put them on, I'm going to ask, I think Magid has a way to put them on the website of the church, in addition to the live streaming, the taped.
So for 1, 2, and 4 on your application, you need to make sure it's like up to par of everyone else. But then it's going to look like everyone else. 3 is where you allow yourself to shine. 4 is your resume, so it's going to include everything that you've done. You should look up templates for resumes because how your resume looks is also important, is maybe as important as what's on your resume. So make it look professional. Make sure you list everything, even stuff you do at church, service things you do at church, list those things. Be specific in like the times, like the years that you've done them. So if you've done something for a long amount of time, then that looks good. And also use action words on your resume. So like when you present whatever you've done on your resume, you make it so that, like, I'm trying to think of an example.
Volunteer to do something.
Yeah. Instead of like, huh? I'm trying to think of the opposite example. What would you not put?
No, trying is good. I was put into this.
No, as opposed to describing the activity.
Yeah.
Construction of houses for the whatever, or feeding the needy is different from volunteer to feed the needy, or right, or collected. So use verbs, not whatever the other thing is.
If you Google action verb,
Go ahead, Esma.
So if you want to bring your resume, I'm sure the youth that are going to do the clinic for the essay can also look at the resume too.
Okay, my last thing is everyone's going to have a good GPA, everyone's going to have good classes, so on and so forth. Set yourself apart somehow.
Be a
Everyone of
giraffe.
you has something unique about you, a unique story, a unique personality trait. Just make sure that comes out in your application. Yeah.
Are there certain things that we should avoid putting into our essay? Because I know there's certain topics you shouldn't talk about in your essay.
Not talk about politics.
I heard also don't talk about religion. Religion.
As long as you don't demean other religion. So talk about you and be respectful, not about what's wrong with it. You see the difference?
So you could talk about like your own Coptic Orthodox.
طب ولو رزقنا بحد جوج يسري طب افرض
I'm sorry?
افرض الادميشن حد جوش ولا بتاع
That's the point. They cannot really discriminate against you. And as long as you don't say Jews are bad people.
No, but they put it in a nice way.
But I don't think that, like,
Nobody can. But because they, no, I mean, they really have no reason to do, this is not religion. not gonna discriminate against you because of that.
I've heard that like it actually happens that like if you end up with like a maybe like a Muslim person reading your essay or your application and you talk about Christianity, they can try to.
So I'm not involved in decision making in admissions, but I would imagine, and I sort of know that it's not a one-person decision. So they sit in a room, they have a panel, each person presents cases, and then they actually have to reach a
Can I add
uniform.
something? I also think writing about that you're Christian doesn't actually set you apart. A lot of people who are applying are Christian. So I'm not saying don't write that you're Christian, but why does that matter? Like what does that say about Anna Simone and why she would be good for this college? You know?
Or why do you use your religion to be a good person? Like, because some people are Christian on the paper, but not.
Okay, do I go ahead? So I found this like college website. Like, if you want to go on it, it's called Capix. And I went on it, and you put like your information, your GPA, your ACT, your SAT scores. It's like a resume. It's similar to a resume, and colleges send to you based on what they see like on your profile. Like I already got like envelopes from colleges that want me because of the website, so it really helps.
Yeah, but sometimes there can be scams. Like, yeah, a lot of them are scams. My brother got
Really?
Yeah, they're annoying. I've gotten them before.
Oh, no.
my address, my cell phone. Reached out to my brother, and they're like, just send your social security number, and you're like,
Oh gosh.
of course.
Okay, go ahead, Anthony. Yeah. Go ahead.
For like a politics standpoint, do you have to research your college on what they like kind of stand out
I
and
would not
support?
talk about politics in your application.
Not at all.
I mean, unless you're on the Republican club. Are you in the Republican club?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's why I'm different. A leadership. No, but I've done like a lot of research and like I've taken time to like understand like the sides and stuff and like what politicians are thinking about and what their ideals are, and then. Yeah.
So if you're going to write about how, and what they really want to know is why is your experience that you're writing valuable to the university? Okay?
Yeah.
So if you're going to tell them, I know everything about politics because I want to be a politician and I want to invade the world.
No. Yeah. So if you don't have any sort of background, like you're a leadership and that type of thing, like student government, it's not going to matter what I say about it?
It doesn't matter, but you have to make a story out of it. So when we have that workshop on the essay writing, I hope this will become clear.
All right, yeah.
What the content means.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Let's leave the essay for now until we get to the workshop, because I think giving it a piecemeal is going to be very deceiving. I don't want to give you an answer that makes no sense in part, but must be taken into context, right? What if? Well, you did.
But I haven't started anything.
So you don't come to the meeting.
Oh my God.
I want to tell you that your parents are listening now, right? Okay, you're in big trouble, my friend.
They already know it's okay.
She tried to join a whole bunch of clubs senior year.
You have to. You gotta start sometime.
If you come to Sunday school tomorrow, did you hear that? Did you hear that? No, not yet. Not yet. Bokra, you are in high school. Next Sunday, you go to the next class. We're not promoted. You're not promoted yet. And if you don't show up tomorrow, you're going to stay in high school for another year. Okay. Okay, let's thank Christina. Anthony, can we pray first before you leave, please? Let's stand in prayer in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, one God, amen. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord bless us, make us worthy to pray thankfully. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil one. In Christ Jesus our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever. Amen. Thank you very much, guys.